Former Alabama Crimson Tide defensive back Brandon Turnage, who entered his name into the transfer portal, has announced where he will be going, and we have got to talk about it because this has big implications for both the Dogs and the Alabama Crimson Tide, because Turnage will be going to none other than SEC rival Georgia. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all, so hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe that Turnage will start for the Dogs in 2021? And let me know what you're thinking there. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification because I do constant college football content and you don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoy that content, be sure to like and comment down below because those interactions are huge for content creators such as myself. But with all that being said and out the way, let's talk the implications of what this means, because Georgia has been very active in the transfer portal securing DBs. They go out and get Tyke Smith, the West Virginia defensive back, and now going out and getting Brandon Turnage. They have identified where on their team they think they need to work on in order to have a successful conquest in 2021, because this Georgia team is very talented. For the first time in the Smart era, they feel like they have a dynamic quarterback that can actually hang with any offense. You lose Pickens, which is big. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat that. That is big. But you do have talented options outside of Pickens. Burton is very talented. Thankfully, the knee injury wasn't that serious there. He will be fine. Everything looks like he's just going to be A-okay, which is awesome because the Georgia Bulldogs are going to need him. But even outside of Burton, you do have talented guys who just need the experience. You have JT Daniels. We talked about the first dynamic quarterback you really feel like you have in the Kirby Smart era that's able to go out there and get the job done. You have talented running backs. You'd like to see the production and continue to increase out of them. And it's Georgia outside of that. The one area where we had question marks about the Dogs coming into 2021 would have been the defensive back position. And the Dogs, like I said, have been very, very adamant about answering those questions. Going out and getting Tyke Smith is a move that I feel like is really flying under a lot of conversations people are having about the transfer portal, myself included, to be fair. We talk a lot about Eric Gray to OU and how great of a move that is, because it was. And we talk a lot about how great To'o to Alabama could be, because that could turn out to be a massive, massive get for the Tide, pairing he and Christian Harris if that is the duo. But Tyke Smith to Georgia is another one that deserves to be out and talked about in the same air as Eric Gray to Oklahoma, as Henry To'o to Alabama, because the implications of Tyke Smith to Georgia will really change the way Georgia is able to run their defense, especially depending on where they end up putting Smith, because he has the versatility to play a few different positions. Then Georgia goes out and nabs Brandon Turnage from the transfer portal and able to shore up the depth they have there. They have some talent. Guys like Keely Ringo we're excited to see, but you could use some experience in there, or at least a guy who's been in a system a few years and can come in there and you feel good about having some adequate depth. So whether or not he starts remains to be seen, but at least the Georgia Bulldogs have identified an area on their team and have been able to go out there and get depth to be able to fix any worries they have, because they have a lot of talent. It's just very inexperienced. If, however, you look at this from an Alabama Crimson Tide perspective, I think this also says that you are in a very good position as far as your depth is concerned. Turnage is a talented guy, but if we look at how the spring unfolded, you had someone such as Marcus Banks perform incredibly well. The coaching staff was raving about him. He was able to get a lot of picks, a lot of production, however, unable to go during A-Day. And outside of Marcus Banks, the Crimson Tide pulled the #1 cornerback in the nation last year, JaQuincy Kool-Aid McKinstry, who absolutely showed that he was worth that rating on A-Day. I mean, whether it was being able to have recovery speed that was actually faster than the receiver, there was a time where he got beat on a vertical route and outran the receiver to the ball. He almost baited the throw and then almost picked it off. He has elite finishing speed, and already for a true freshman who's an early enrollee, understood zone concepts well enough to be able to pick off a pass by playing the zone perfectly. The Tide fans have got incredible reason to be excited about JaQuincy McKinstry, but also a guy such as Marcus Banks. Very productive spring. Kyrie Jackson coming in during the summer, and then 5-star Terrion Arnold, who whether he plays safety or corner, we think right now he's going towards corner, but the Alabama Crimson Tide DB room is incredibly loaded, even though they lost Pat Surtain to the first round of the NFL draft. There is also a competition for the safety position. Whether Wright wins it back from Helms remains to be seen. I think conventional wisdom thinks Helms Willems keeps that position. However, the Crimson Tide's depth is incredible, and there's a reason why Turnage looked at it and then turned to a different team. He feels like his path to playing is at least better at Georgia, and it has nothing really to do with also the guys I just named, because when you looked at the Crimson Tide situation heading into last year, we were looking at the Crimson Tide DB room thinking, okay, they're talented, but they could use some depth. But then you get in Malachi Moore, who exceeds all expectations and is playing at all SEC levels, and he's one of the best players in the nation as far as DB is concerned. You get him, and he has a phenomenal season. But then Brian Branch comes in when Malachi Moore goes down, and the production doesn't fall off very much. You have two guys in Brian Branch, Malachi Moore, coming along much more quickly than people expect. You compound that with already having Josh Jobe stay on campus, having Jalen Armour-Davis be someone that the Crimson Tide staff has been very high on. We have heard a lot about him, how talented he is, but injuries have sidelined him. So you have Malachi Moore, Brian Branch coming in with a vengeance far exceeding expectations. You have Josh Jobe staying. You have Jalen Armour-Davis coming back healthy, really looking the part. Marcus Banks has a great spring. JaQuincy McKinstry comes in as the #1 cornerback in the nation, a 5-star, and absolutely shows the part. Not to mention you have the #1 JUCO corner in the nation, Kyrie Jackson, who's 6'4" with incredible length. And then Terrion Arnold, the other 5-star coming in. Brandon Turnage was in a situation to where he was buried in the depth chart, and the Alabama Crimson Tide depth at cornerback right now is insane. There's a reason why we've seen 2 people transfer out of that room, because the cornerback depth at the Crimson Tide right now is unbelievable. So if you're a Georgia fan, when you're looking at this, you have to feel good about getting in requisite depth to be able to help that room along. This is a room, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Your team is phenomenal. There was one question mark people had for Georgia, and was what was going to be that DB room. You lost 2 guys to the draft, 2 very highly regarded players. Well, you're able to identify that in Tyke Smith, Brandon Turnage, to go along with a lot of talented freshmen or redshirt freshmen that we didn't get to see last year, or just new guys in general. When I'm thinking freshman, redshirt freshman, I'm thinking Keely Ringo, who I can't wait to see play. If you're an Alabama fan, you need to look at this and feel very good about your depth, because there's a reason guys have transferred out, and it's because JaQuincy McKinstry is absolutely deserving of the #1 cornerback spot. It's because Marcus Banks has performed very well. It's because Kyrie Jackson, it's because Terrion Arnold are still coming in, and they look to be incredible, and it's because guys that the Alabama Crimson Tide already have been very good. Josh Jobe, Jalen Armour-Davis coming back looking great coming off of injury, and then also guys such as Marcus Banks really showing the part. I can't wait to hear from y'all. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you think that Brandon Turnage starts for the Dogs? And what do you think about the Alabama Crimson Tide? Incredible depth at the cornerback position. I'm really excited to hear from y'all. That's it. See ya.